Hello, welcome to Cardboard History. I'm David, and today I want to share my national recap and pickups. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to go chronologically through how my show went, showing which cards I picked up along the way. So for me, the show started on Wednesday. That morning was crazy. I worked a couple hours, then we closed on our house that we're moving to here in a couple months, and then I got in the car and drove to Chicago. So I had the 5-day pass, which was supposed to get me an hour early, and I got there an hour even before that, and still was not able to really get in the show until about 4 o'clock on Wednesday. The lines were just forever long, but I did get into the show, and my goal on Wednesday was just to see as much of the show as possible and keep my eye out for those big pickup cards that I was looking for. So that's what I did. I walked the show floor, and I was able to get over half of it covered, but did not find any of the big cards that I wanted to pick up that were in a grade and price range that I was looking for. So I didn't want to pull the trigger too quickly, but I did find a couple of low value items, low cost things that fit in my collection and that I've been looking for a while. So I'll start sharing a couple of those here. The first one is I picked up a pair of W560 cards, and these are from 1929. So this was they're called strip cards, but they were on a sheet of 16, and there's two series of these cards that were printed. The first series is two color. They have red and black ink on the same cards, and then the second series used only red or only black ink on the cards. So this is Guy Bush. He was a pitcher for the Cubs. His best year was probably 1929, the year these cards came out. He pitched for the Cubs and was one of the players that helped lead them to the World Series that year, which they lost. But he led the league that year in games pitched as well as saves, with 8 saves. So this is from the second series, and you can tell it because it just has one color. It's all black. The image would be red if it was from the first series. So this was the first card that I picked up. This is my first W560 for the Cubs, so that is part of my type collection. And another W560 that he had there was Les Bell. So he played third base for the St. Louis Cardinals and played for a couple different teams, including the Cubs later on in his career. Now this card's a little bit interesting. It doesn't look like a normal playing card. That's because it's one of the jokers. It's one of the extra cards in the set. And it's kind of weird that there's parachuting men around him. And the reason for that is because of the first series of this card was of a man named Forrest O'Brien, who was a famous aviator who had set the current world record for the longest endurance flight. He was flying for several days. I think it was over 3 days he spent in the air. And so the first series of this contains some non-baseball players, and then in the second series they switched out some of those people for baseball players, but they kept the images around them the same. So that's why this card of Les Bell has parachuting men around it, is because it was originally designed for Forrest O'Brien, and the people that printed the card just swapped out the picture. So this is part of my the Ken Burns collection, and it's just kind of interesting doing a little bit of reading about the history of why this card looks the way that it does. But there is that. And then my only other pickups from Wednesday were I found a guy that had some of the Topps Tokyo boxes, and he also had a bunch of the insert cards, and so I picked up a couple of Dansby Swanson. These are from the cards that were released for the Tokyo series that the Cubs played in this year, and just some of the artwork there. I'd been wanting to pick up some of these cards, and rather than spending the money on a box, I just picked out a couple of cards that I liked and went with that. So that was Wednesday. Those were the only cards that I found. I had thought about going to the meetup, but with the newborn, I'm a bit sleep deprived. So I took this chance to go to the hotel room, and by the time I got there, it was 10 o'clock, and tried to get as much sleep as I could, and got back to the show early the next morning. It was great to sit outside the show waiting for it to open and talk to some people like Brian Roth and John 3D80's kids, as well as a few other Stephen with a PH, I believe, was there. And just to see a few people before the meetup Thursday night was great. And then Thursday I got back into the show and finished looking at all the tables and went upstairs and tried to fight my way through those narrow aisles up there. If you went up there, or if you've heard anyone talking, it was impossible to navigate those small aisleways with all the people that were up there. So I got through all of that and still couldn't find one of the big target cards. So I decided to pivot a little bit and started looking for a couple of second tier things that I was looking for. And that led me to Craig Halbig's table, where I picked up this 1951 Leo DeRocher for my Ken Burns collection, as well as a Billy Williams Transagram. So this has started to become a little bit of a tradition for me, where I pick up a Cubs Transagram card at the National. Last year I picked up Ernie Banks, and this year Billy Williams. So that means next year the only one left is Ron Santo. So I picked that up, and then I went back to a table that had a handful of N284 Buckner gold coins. So this is a set that I really love, and may someday undertake trying to collect the Cubs team set, if not the whole set. But just wanted to pick up a Cubs player from this set. So this is Fred Pfeffer, one of the great Cubs, lesser known Cubs from the 1800s. And then on the back, you see the gold coin chewing tobacco. So this was one of the more mid-tier cards that I knew I was looking for and had wanted to pick up, but I was still struggling to decide what to do, what route to go. I had walked around and looked for a couple of my second tier cards, looked at a couple of 59 Bob Gibsons or 53 Satchel Pages, 57 Brooks Robinson. Those were kind of cards that were plenty of them there, and couldn't quite find one to pull the trigger on. I ran into Greg Midlife Cards and was talking to him, and he told me about his pickup, which was a T206 Ty Cobb, and also that Orlando had picked up a T206 Ty Cobb. And that kind of gave me some new energy. It was about 2 o'clock at the time. The show was half over for the day, half over, and I decided, okay, let me keep my eyes open, maybe pivot. Instead of looking for the green T206 Portrait Cobb, look for the red, which is a little bit less expensive, and I might be able to find one of those in my price range. And I walked around and eventually came across a dealer that I had never done any deals with before, and found this card on his table, which I ended up buying. It is the green Cobb. So I had negotiated with a couple other dealers and could not get them to come down to my price range, and this one was able to just get closer to what I could afford. And it also was not, a complete beater. I didn't want any significant creases through the face. I wanted good registration. This has some great centering. Really the only crease you can kind of see right there is barely noticeable from a distance. And so it has some very honest corners, which I love. Just the history of this card. Kind of all 4 of the corners have some creasing on it. It's also from the 150 series Sweet Cap back, which means it's from the first printing, so the colors tend to be a little bit darker and richer on these as opposed to the 350 series. So just so excited to add this card to my collection. Definitely an own appeal. Happy to have this card in any grade. And yeah, did not know if this was going to be possible going into the show, and just so excited to add that to my collection. So that left me with not a whole lot of my budget left, and I decided to go do some dollar box digging, and that led me to a couple different dealers who I had kind of earmarked on my map as places to go back to for dollar boxes, and picked up some cards for my Topps Gold Cubs team run, so including Derek Lee, Mark Pryor. Some of these cards, to find them for $1 is a great steal. Like this Anthony Rizzo, especially cards like rookie debut, Almora. Cards from the Cubs World Series year and the year after that tend to be a little bit more pricey for the gold set. You have Almora's true rookie card there in the gold. Also Chris Bryant, league leaders, and 2020 Chris Bryant, as well as the Nico Horner rookie. This one was $4, but the rest of these were, I think, pretty much all $1. So was very happy with these. And this is for the Sapphire collection. A couple other parallels that I picked up. Probably the best one was this Topps Chrome Javi Baez from 2017, numbered to 150, 50 out of 150. So that was a nice find in a $1 box. One other thing, which I had forgotten about until this moment, and I think it's here behind me. I did not anticipate picking up anything that wasn't a card, but I saw this and I thought it was just too cool to pass up, and it is a Serums Mirror. So you'll, I guess, see some of my cards in the background, but it is Evers, Tinker, and Chance, and it has the Evers to Tinker to Chance a line from that poem on there. Trio of Bear, Cubs, and Fleeter Than Birds, Tinker to Evers to Chance. So this will go up in an office somewhere. I just thought it was a really cool piece, and I picked it up middle of the day Thursday and just carried it around all day. At one point I left it at a booth and went to go get something to eat and sat down to eat and realized I didn't have it with me anymore. So I ran back to the booth, which was where I was going through the $1 boxes, and picked it back up, and it was still there because it kind of blended in the bag that I had. So that was the end of the pickups for the show. After that, I went to the YouTube meet and greet, and Iconic Al was handing out some packs of 1989 Topps, some junk wax, fun to rip, and happy to get a Hall of Famer in a Cubs uniform, Greg Maddux. And then the best card out of the pack was a Mark Grace, which, if you've seen behind me, I have a Mark Grace jersey up. This is the Gold Cup rookie card, and the best part about this is that it has the gum stuck to it. So thanks to Jason, Everyday Card Collector, for getting me a penny sleeve and a semi-rigid to put this in, so that way the gum would stay attached to it and kind of keep that as a fun memory. So that was the meet and greet. Then when that got broken up, if you've heard about that, if you've watched any YouTuber recap of the National, I'm sure you've heard about it. I went with a group that went to Shoeless Joe's, and that was a great time. Got to have some good conversation with Tony Southern Collector and his buddy Tim, as well as Jason and Finley, Orlando, Greg. Got to see his pickups, and just so many great guys there, great conversations, talking Sammy Thunder, Dan from Dan's Vintage Baseball PC, just so many great guys there, and a fun time. And the food took a while to get there, but it was all okay because we were hanging out and having fun. So that was Thursday, a late night, got back to the hotel, and then Friday, my plan was just to go to the Cubs game. And also, in addition to the Cubs game, that day on Friday, right across the street from Wrigley Field, was a new card shop opening, Card Vault by Tom Brady. And I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, so I decided I'm going to try to get there for the opening, stand in line. Maybe he would be there. He wasn't. He had gone there the day before, I found out, and they did kind of a promotional launch there. And I saw pictures that he was at the National at 1.2. But I was in line there. They handed out free hats to the first 15, 30 people that were there in line. So I got a free Tom Brady Card Vault hat in the Cubs colors, which was really cool. And then went inside, and it looked like a card shop. They did have some really cool pieces back in the vault, and they had a little Pokemon back there as well. And I picked up a few things that I'll share here. Most of these don't fit necessarily anywhere into my collection, but they were cards that I wanted to pick up because of the occasion where I was. Being that it was Tom Brady's store that he's 50% owner in, I picked up some Patriots, their new rookie quarterback from last year, a couple of his Drake May's rookie cards. I don't have many of his cards, and I haven't collected a whole lot of football since I first got back into the hobby 4 or 5 years ago, but those were a couple of cool cards to pick up there. And then this one, I saw somebody show this card on YouTube before the National, and when I saw this there, I thought it was perfect to pick up, being right across the street from Wrigley Field and having Harry Carey. Even though it says Michael Jordan on there, this is a Harry Carey card to me, but just a great picture of two Chicago icons. And then they also had cards that were in their own kind of custom slabs, and so I picked up a PCA. This is a variation from Topps Heritage of his rookie card, and then this card fit just in so many ways. Being Sandberg, the game I went to was the first home game since Sandberg had passed, and so they did a lot to honor him at the game. His statue had a ton of flowers and memorial out in front, and just kind of a special game to go to remember Ryne Sandberg. And also this card is an all-star card, and it was announced that morning that the Cubs got awarded the 2027 all-star game. So those two things coming together kind of made this a special card just to fit the occasion for Ryne Sandberg. So that went to the baseball game and was treated to the shortest game in the MLB this year. It was tied at 1 hour and 49 minutes. It went so fast, a 1-0 Cubs win, which was great to see. Fun to sing Go Cubs Go, and to enjoy just the atmosphere around there as fans gathered to remember Ryne Sandberg. A lot of old players were there, Cal Ripken, Schwan Dunston, and there was a lot of players that I saw even after the game, seeing kind of the news coverage of the game of different people that were there to remember Sandberg. But yeah, it was a quick game, and after it was over, drove back home. Got home, had a little bit of mail, so I'll share a little bit of mail today. This is a TCMA card of Pete Gray. He was the one-armed player who played for the Browns for a year during World War II. So he played 77 games and hit .218, had 5 stolen bases and 2 triples. So this is, I believe, his first card. So Pete Gray is, if it's not his first card, I'd pick this card out because it shows him batting, and you can really, I think, get an appreciation for what he was able to accomplish, only having one arm. And then I also had a birthday gift from my nephew. Thursday was my birthday at the National, so it was fun hanging out with everybody on that day. And he had left me a pack of, it was a hanger box from Topps Series 2 this year, and it was the best hanger box I'd ever opened. It had this Hunter Brown, which is numbered to 25, the orange foil parallel. So to hit a card numbered to 25 out of a $15 box is amazing. I never had that kind of luck, so thank you to David for that. That was awesome, and just really exciting. So that was my national journey. Hope you enjoyed watching along with me. That's all I've got, so thank you so much for watching, and go Cubs.